So the first topic is most cringe UX portfolio mistakes. Emilie, do you have some cringy things that you're like, oh, why?
Most aren't cringe, but there's a few where I'm like, oh, okay. The first would be like any broken links. And it was like shocking to me how many people like can't find your LinkedIn or anything like that. Come on, you're applying for a product designer role. You would think it goes hand in hand, but I think it's very easy to overlook this kind of simple mistake, right? So maybe it's an old link or it just doesn't work. Just test it before you send the application. Another one that makes me cringe, and I'm guilty of, I used to do this too, is Emilie Mazurek, product designer, passionate about crafting the ultimate experiences, bridging the gap. Like, please stop. We know you're a product designer. Give me something interesting about you that's a little more real, like what's your background in, something interesting about you, something memorable. A lot of people do it. And I think it's just because we see other people doing it. And it even extends into the about section. You see these paragraphs of long people writing about their passionate and how they found their place. And I love that you found that story for you, but like it's all about finding something scannable and quick. And it's maybe kind of negative, but at the end of the day, is somebody actually going to read that, right? If you're looking at the average hiring manager, recruiter, a couple of minutes on the portfolio maximum, right? Those are the biggest cringe ones for me.
Folks are trying to fit in by saying I'm a passionate problem solver. They might think it sounds like they fit the bill of this designer role they're trying to play, but really hiring managers who look at these portfolios are like, that's exactly the same as every other person who's done it. How do you figure out that one sentence for yourself?
So in terms of the one sentence, like I think it should be something interesting, memorable, or something that differentiates you from everybody else. So I've seen people with a background, 10 years in ed tech. That would make you a very appealing candidate if you're applying for an ed tech role, working in education or something along those lines. That's a lot more impressive than passionate designer. And it's not just a space filler then, right? I have like a little animation with a couple keywords kind of define my story. And it's a little bit more interesting than just that one or two sentence blurb. So you can get creative with it. There's not a right way to do it. And I think we see these portfolios with all of these examples of how to do it. And it's just other people copying other people. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right way.
I like to have two prompts for folks to think about this. One, how you different, like the one you mentioned. Actually tell me stuff about you that's unique or interesting. And then the other is like, can you talk about your superpower? And it's not invisibility, because that would be really cool. but something that you are like actually passionate about, or like you're like, yeah, I'm super OCD in this one way, and that is what makes me me. Like that's way more interesting, right? The other with broken links that kind of triggered what I thought, which is like call to actions. Let's just say 3 ways. The broken links is one, not having any CTAs, or just too many CTAs, just like links to everything. I have Dribbble, I have IG, I have all this. Yeah. And you're like, whoa, what do you want to do? It's funny because a link to IG is like personal account. And sometimes I've seen this being on like private. So it's like, why would you link a private IG account to your portfolio site, right?
Yeah, I see that often. And I used to kind of fall into that too. Again, like transitioning, I'm a new designer. Like the more links, the better. It adds to my expertise. I look like a professional. Well, it's not when it's like to my vacation pictures of me, like in my bathing suit on Instagram, right? So like, who are you designing this for? If you don't have a UX Instagram, that's fine. Most people don't. You don't need to link that. Other things like that too, like I had my Dribbble posted, and like I'm really guilty of this. I had like 4 really crappy rudimentary UI design challenges posted there. Like not my best quality of work by any stretch, but I felt compelled to have a Dribbble because I wanted to be like the designer. So it's a quality over quantity approach for sure when it goes to your last point there.
Personally, if someone sends me a Dribbble or Behance link and they're like, that's my portfolio, I'm cringing already. I'm like, no. Wait, hold on. Is that the same for you, or do you nicer?
I mean, if your Dribble's your portfolio, I don't see how you can create a compelling narrative around the work that you've done, because it's literally just screenshots. Same with Behance. I know you can like beef it up a little bit more, but I think like in North America, it's the standard to have a website or a Notion or a PDF that you would send out. It does seem a little bit lazy maybe, but I think that outside of North America, that might be more standardized. So I try to be a bit more open-minded about it, especially with the Behance, because I know a lot of work can go into still creating that case study, but definitely have a strong preference to a website where I can click, search for keywords, scroll very easily and find the content I need. It's going to be high resolution. It looks just more professional.
Yeah, I agree. My problem with those two other platforms like Dribbble and Behance is they're like social network for designers. It's about, hey, here's this cool image I did. It doesn't really optimize for like explaining what it is. Some people do it on Behance, but yet again, it's just a image upload. So the performance is bad, and you're just like, oh, well, what are you trying to do? It's not really optimized for you to write a bunch and to tell me that story, right? That's why I find it cringe, and I'm like, no, don't do that. But
Please don't. Yeah.
another one from me, and love to hear your thought about this, is if they show the design thinking process image, like empathize to test, and they just like, here's my process, then they go ahead below and dissect it like, okay, here's what I did in the empathize phase. Do you have any problems with that, or is that just me?
I like this resonates deeply with me because when I was in my boot camp, they like really preached this at us. You know, it's like, if you don't have this in your portfolio, some hiring managers will immediately discredit you. And I'm like, I would like to meet those hiring managers. Like, who is saying this and like who is like having that as the criteria? Because it's not how the design process works. Yes, in school, we learn everything from A to B, but in the real world, you never have enough time to do every single step of the progress. It kind of makes you come off a bit more junior compared to like a senior design portfolio where you just focus on, you know, the really interesting parts of the story, of things that were unexpected, didn't go according to plan, or where you had to pivot. That's the real storytelling, right? If you're following this like a scribed script, it's almost like a recipe, right? Where you're going step by step and you have this flow diagram. It's just not realistic at the end of the day. And it kind of shows your inexperience from my perspective.
I definitely agree with you because the design process is not linear, although it's taught linear as like, I guess the design thinking is like a popularizing, like, oh, use this in businesses. This is how easy it is, right? But when you're actually on the ground and doing the work, you might be somewhere in the middle of the process without, right? And then you're jumping like to and from, and it's like loops everywhere. So it doesn't really make sense. And to the point of a cooking recipe, if I did this, then the natural outcome is that. But that is not really realistic. If only it was that easy, right? If you just make a persona and you can just hop on to the next stage, you're like, oh, good, my work is done. Sprinkling some magic dust. From the empathize phase. There's another thing that I have found myself doing, and now I'm like, okay, no, which is,
want to listen to the full conversation? Click the video on screen now. Subscribe to the channel if you want to join us live. Oh, wait. Okay, fine, you don't have to join us for the live stream, but if you like stuff like this, then click that subscribe button. I'll see you on the inside. Bye!